everyone. Welcome to Getting the Job, episode 2. We are so excited to have Tuzo here, who's actually joining us from Kenya right now before she goes back for the semester in the spring. Tuzo, thank you so much for being here. We're really excited to learn about your experiences. She's an incoming intern at Facebook this summer, and she's an international student studying at Harvard University. So, Tuzo, I know that was just a little bit of an intro, but could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am a sophomore, and I'm studying applied math at Harvard. For no specific reason, I just didn't know what to do and landed in math. Um, I love to sing in my free time. Yeah, pretty much.
No, great. I also love to sing mostly in the shower, but what is a little bit of the reason that you wanted to go to the US to study? Harvard's obviously an amazing university. Any motivations behind getting there or any story?
So for me, at least like in the Kenyan education system, you have to choose what you want to do before you get to university. And I just wasn't sure that I was ready to make up my mind like going into a career for life. So I just wanted the option of being able to choose what I want to do. And that was the main motivation for applying to schools in the US. Um, yeah, and then I applied to a couple of schools, got rejected by a ton of them. Luckily got into Harvard, and yeah.
Okay, amazing. So I know you said you're only a sophomore, so I would say, you're someone who started the recruitment process early, which is very exciting, and we obviously want to guide a lot of international students to get ahead. So what was your process recruiting? Did you have a list of companies in mind, or were you just applying blindly to different companies?
So I actually just started going for career fairs in my freshman year,
Wow.
just trying to figure out like what companies hire internationals and which ones don't, so that like I don't waste my time. And so that would just be like the first question I would ask, like when I go to a booth, do you hire internationals? If not, thank you for your time. Let's move on. Um, and then like it was just like narrowing down like what companies now fit my interests and meet the basic qualification of hiring internationals. um, and then just started figuring out like what when the application process is, because usually you get, just by talking to other people and like other internationals, you get a pretty good idea of when recruitment season is for different sectors. So for things like in finance, like McKinsey, JP Morgan, and big companies like that, they have the recruitment pretty early.
Yeah.
So it was like trying to get ahead in the summer, trying to get most things done. And then the tech ones are usually later on. So that one, I started doing it like in the middle of the semester. Um, Also, like most of the companies have like events where they just talk to people who are interested in the recruiters. I don't know whether it counts, but like I would just go to as many events as possible, whether like I plan on applying to the company or not, because I think it just shows that you have a genuine interest for the company and you're just genuinely curious about what they do, um, and trying to find out as much about their culture. Um, I don't know if they keep records of that, but I went to every single event that Facebook had. Um, Going to conferences, I think, also helped a lot. I went for Grace Hopper virtual this year, and it was just a great opportunity to network with people. There were a lot of recruiters there, just like talking to them just casually about like their process of application, whether they take sophomores or not. um, and because like I wasn't sure whether I was recruiting this summer, um, it was just like figuring out if I want to apply for this like in my junior year, then I'll know. So
Yeah.
that was mostly it, like the preparation for like the application process. In terms of the process itself, like no two resumes were the same. Like I had to tailor make every single resume to every single company, which I think like it's tiring, but I think it's very necessary
Mhm.
because just different wording can make the difference between making your experience relevant to one industry or another, one company or another.
Is that
So,
something you did yourself? Did anyone help you, guide you in that process?
so I would come up with drafts and then I would go to the Office of Career Services at Harvard, schedule an appointment and have someone like go through my resume. Um, I would also just ask like a couple of people because there are other people who have worked at these companies. Like I'm just like, hey, I'm applying for this position. Could you please take a look at my resume or my application and like give you feedback on it? Um, so that's what I would do for most of them. Um, and then just submit the applications and wait.
Yeah, the waiting process is definitely very stressful, but I guess I have two questions. The first one being a lot of people, especially their sophomore year, think they're too young, whereas international students think that internships can only be possible in your junior year. So is that anything you faced? Did you ever think similarly? Or, what helped you say, no, as a sophomore, this is what I'm doing this summer?
I think for me, I was keeping an open mind. I was either I was trying recruiting, but I was also thinking of going into research. And I was just like, I'm just going to apply for everything and then see what works out. Um, because the worst that can happen is they say no, like they reject me. And then I'm like, oh. Um, so I think for me, it was just like trying for every opportunity, um, but specifically for sophomore opportunities. So I did not want to be in the same pool as a junior, like competing for the same position. So I made sure that all the positions I applied for were specific sophomore or freshman and sophomore opportunities. And I just applied for everything that interested me and for companies that applied internationals. And then we're just like, we'll see if it works out.
Great.
Yeah.
So I've been in a similar boat just as an international student where sometimes you have a great connection with a recruiter or with a company or it's an opportunity that excites you. And unfortunately, they let you know that they cannot sponsor. Did you go through that at all yet? And if so, how did you stay motivated after hearing it?
So for some companies, like they don't even have the courtesy of telling you that you're rejected. You just never hear from them again. That was very demotivating. I was like, am I doing something wrong? Um, I would talk to like a couple of people, like my counselors and my mentors, and I just like, I just feel like giving up on this whole process and just like saying, you know what, we'll stay at home over the summer or do something. But I think just having like a strong community of like mentors and friends were just like, no, you have to do this. Like at least you have to try. Was very, very helpful. There are some companies that actually sent out such emails that like, we really liked your application, but unfortunately we cannot take you. Um, so usually I would just like reply to the recruiter and I'm like, thank you so much for the opportunity and everything. Um, and I would like to apply to your company at a future date. Like, um, can you just give me like feedback on my application? Like, why did I not get it? Or, something loosely worded, something like that, just like asking for feedback from recruiters, um, which would help in like the next application. So if I got like a letter like that in September, I would use that feedback in my application that I submitted in October. Yeah.
Perfect. No, that's really amazing. I think it's hard to stay motivated, but definitely getting feedback when they respond is really wonderful and definitely beneficial. Did you think that there was anything that set you apart or a differentiator when you were interviewing that made you an exciting candidate, or is there anything you did to set yourself apart in the recruitment application process?
Um, I'm not sure because I mean I tend to think of myself as like a pretty average person. So I guess like I wasn't I mean, I was trying to impress, but like I was also just trying to be myself, like during the interview process and everything. It's just, I think most of my interviews were like very like casual, and like at least for most sophomore positions, a lot of them said that they weren't looking for a lot of technical like capabilities. So I thought they were just looking to see if you're going to be a good fit for the company. Um, so yes, I made sure that my technical bits were good, but I was just also like very comfortable during my interviews and just like, like not stressing, trying not to stress about it and just like being myself, I think helped with it a lot. So it's not like um pretentious or like just, like crude and just trying to fit into what I would consider an ideal candidate. I don't know if there's anything like that.
No, I mean, that makes sense. So when you got an interview, and I'm not too sure how many firms you interviewed at, what was your preparation process like?
Okay, so a lot of the in like firms when they sent out emails for interviews, they would sort of list out what the interview is going to look like. Is it going to be a casual conversation? Is it going to be like a technical component to it? Um, so I think it was just like going through the list and seeing what um, are they asking for during the interviews and just practicing that. So like um, it is a technical component. I spent the week before my interview making sure that I was perfect at that, like programming language or specific aspects to it. Um, in terms of just like communication, just talking to myself in the mirror, practicing with some of my friends. Um, I also just have a great relationship with a lot of seniors, and so we'll just set up some time to have like mock interviews because they already like worked at that company or something like that. Um, yeah, that really helped.
Okay, great. And I know sometimes within the interview process, they ask you questions to better understand your thought process. So they don't really expect you to know the answer. Do you remember or are you comfortable sharing any interview question that you've ever gotten through any interview where you really didn't know the answer and how you approached something like that?
Yeah, so during one of my interviews, like they were asking for like how I would think about like a process, and it was like, well, you get two different results at two different stages depending on what you start with. And so I picked one and the recruiter picked the other. And like I freaked out because I was like, did I do the wrong thing? And at that point I said, I just came up with something like from one of my classes, like probability. I was like, well, I guess this is like some sort of like paradox where it's like if you start one way, you get a different result, and you start the other way, you get a different result. And the only way to figure out what you want to do is ask other team members, like the product manager or something like that. So I think like just falling back on what you know,
Mhm.
throwing in a technical term that makes sense, and explaining like how even if like you're stuck, like you know how to get unstuck either by yourself or by communicating with other people and just working together with other people to figure out a way out. So if you, I would say if you don't know the technical um, answer to something, just like fall back on like a social skill that is required to solve it, like
Mhm.
communication or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I've done a couple technical interviews, but more on the consulting side, less on, algorithms and coding language. So everyone's super curious, what are you going to be doing at Facebook? Could you maybe tell us a little bit about the role that you accepted and what that looks like?
Yeah, sure. So I got into Facebook University on the data analytics track. So basically, we're going to be learning for like the first 3 weeks. Um, because again, we're sophomores, they don't expect us to know a lot, which I think is great. And then we are probably going to be placed in teams depending on what we prefer. And we're going to work with data scientists at Facebook, just trying to figure out how to improve the products from an analytical point of view. Um, that's as much as I know.
No, that sounds
um,
exciting. Are you
yeah.
locating somewhere or is it remote?
So they plan on having it in Menlo Park in California, but then that is dependent on how COVID goes.
Yeah,
Um, they may have to switch to remote, um, but that's something that they'll let us know because, like, we start in June, so there's
a lot,
a lot of time.
of course.
Yeah,
All right, so
yeah.
clearly, like your passion and your effort all kind of came together, and I think getting this experience sophomore year so early is really exciting because it helps you figure out what you like and what you don't like, and help you build skills in the real world that you can take back when you go to your classes in the fall. But what is some advice that you have? Maybe twofold: one for sophomores who are still looking to get an internship in the spring and stay in the United States for the summer, and B, just anyone who's an international student who's in this recruitment process.
I think like for sophomores, I would say um like be very specific about like what you want and like try like I would say like just the same thing. Like if a position is asking for juniors or sophomores, you're probably at the bottom end of that pile. So I would say like look for opportunities that you are best optimized for. And like a lot of the companies that like hire internationals are probably like big companies, which kind of sucks because you might be able to get like a smaller company, but they don't hire internationals, which is um, very disappointing. So I guess you just have to be ready for that disappointment and just like know that, you know what, like you being on a visa sometimes means that you don't get access to as many opportunities, which is okay. It doesn't mean that you are a failure. It just means this country doesn't have as much opportunities for you, which is okay. Um, also, for if you do get a position with a company, um, they might be able to work with CPT instead of OPT because a lot of companies are not willing to go through the whole OPT process. But if your school does offer CPT, then that might be a route you want to take. Just like talking with your recruiter and figuring out how to handle all of that. Um, and then I guess like for internationals, I'd say again, at least for me, I feel like the international community at Harvard is very like alive and interconnected and just like people are willing to help each other out. It's like if I know you're an international, I will go out of my way to help you out because I know the struggle. um, so reach out to other internationals at your school, and figure out like what they've done over the past summers, because I will also like let you know what opportunities are available for you. It will give you someone to refer to when you're stuck in your application. So just like reach out to other internationals. There's a bond that we have, like just by the fact that we have the same visa.
No, thank you so much. I think that was great. We just kind of wanted to end and see, just on a more fun note, if there's anything you're really looking forward to in 2021. Just doesn't have to be career or recruitment oriented, or it can be.
Um, so I left because I wanted to escape the winter, but I kind of miss like this Mexican restaurant around school. Like I just need to go there and like order a burrito and just like sit down and just like enjoy that
I
food.
love that. I love that. When are you headed back?
Yeah. Like in the next 1 week. So
Okay, amazing. All right. Thank you so much, Tuzo. I think those are all of our questions. Thank you again for taking out the time, towards the end of your vacation to chat with everyone here. We're hoping that all of the things that you told us today will inspire both sophomores looking for a job as well as just international students in this process to stay motivated. And I think some of the things you said, like tailoring your resume for every single job, as intensive as that might be, it makes such a big difference. And so I hope that they take some things away. We'll make sure to tag you on LinkedIn just in case you want to share this. And thank you so much again for being a part of our series.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. I really hope that I was helpful. Um, and if anyone wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I am so happy to help. Like I said, internationals, look out for internationals. Like, that's just how it is.